The 45th federal election is now into its final stretch. Election Day is just 3 days away. And throughout this campaign, the CBC News fact-check team has been answering your questions. Senior reporter Jonathan Gatehouse joins us in studio now. Good morning, Jonathan. Good to see you. I love today's questions, so let's dive right in. The first one comes from Tom's, and he's asking, please fact-check candidate Pierre Poilievre's 1% escape rate for single-use plastics. The health of our planet is at stake. Pretty intense.
Indeed. So this viewer request refers to the Conservative leader's pledge to scrap the ban on single-use plastics, including straws. And here's some of what he had to say during that campaign event.
Let's be clear. The Liberals' plastics ban is not about the environment. It is about cost and control. Only 1% of plastic waste ever ends up in the environment. The other 99%, it's disposed of safely or recycled.
So that 1% figure comes from a 2019 report from the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development in the Parliament in Ottawa. And it found that in 2016, 86% of plastic waste in Canada ended up in landfills, 9% of it was recycled, 4% of it was burned, and 1% was discharged into the environment as litter. So the first thing we should note here is that that report actually recommended the ban on single-use plastics. And then because it cited concerns about toxicity to humans and environmental dangers that such plastics pose. And many experts would also take issue with Pierre Poilievre's use of the word safely. Scientific studies have raised the alarm about what happens to buried plastics, how they degrade into microplastics, how it leaches into surrounding soil and groundwater, releasing harmful chemicals that end up inside the body of both animals and humans. So the single-use plastic ban, it was part of a Liberal government push to achieve zero plastic waste by 2030. That ban was overturned by the federal court in November of 2023 as being unreasonable and unconstitutional, but it has currently been stayed pending appeal.
Okay. That complicated when we were just talking about plastic straws, but thanks so much for clarifying that. Okay, let's get to the other question. This one comes from Michael, and he's asking, in a new video published online, Liberal leader Mark Carney stated, in the United States, healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right. He says, my understanding is healthcare in Canada is not a right. Can you fact check this?
Yeah, so here is a clip from the campaign ad that our viewer is referring to.
In the U.S., healthcare is a big business. In Canada, it is a right. It is a right that my government will fight for and invest in.
It's powerful.
Yeah, and it is something where Mark Carney is saying that it is a right. Now, but despite that fact, it's not actually explicitly a right as we understand it in a legal term. It's not covered under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There is no explicit right to health care. But courts and provincial and federal governments have tended to interpret other provisions of the Charter as guaranteeing an access to health care, particularly Section 7, which says everyone has a right to life, liberty, and security of the person, and Section 15, where everyone is equal under the law and has a right to equal protections and benefits without discriminations. And then there's also the Canada Health Act, the legislation that governs health care in Canada. It also lays out principles the governments need to follow, and that includes the universality and portability, so healthcare travels with you across the country when it comes to accessing medically necessary treatment.
Okay, let's get to our final question coming from Ruth. Is Elections Canada doing anything about the public posting ballots on social media? From my understanding, it's against the law. Ruth, we're doing it for the gram. I'm just kidding. I haven't done it, but I have seen them online. So what's the answer? So
Ruth is right. You can post a photo of a ballot that is unmarked, but when it comes to a marked ballot, if you post a photo or a video or share it with anybody, that is a violation of Canada's Elections Act. And Elections Canada has been warning people about this throughout the campaign, that you cannot take a picture or share a picture of your marked ballot, although some people are still doing it. The potential punishment is actually pretty harsh. A fine of up to $5,000 or 6 months in jail.
What?
Yeah. And so the Commissioner of the Canada Elections is who is responsible for enforcing the Canada Elections Act. And I reached out to her office to ask if anybody has actually been charged in recent years for doing this, for taking a picture of a marked ballot. The answer is not in recent memory. Dating back to 2013, certainly there have not been any charges. The Commissioner does have the power to deal with these things informally, and that seems to be the route that she chooses to take. This involves warning people, educating them, and saying, don't do it again.
Okay, really, really helpful information. Thanks so much, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
And we want to know what's on your mind. What questions do you want to hear about the election? You got 3 days, people. Get them questions in. Send us an email at ask@cbc.ca, and we will do our best to connect your questions with CBC journalists or experts who can answer.